Welcome, welcome. It's time for your Friday drone news update. And this week, actually, compared to last week, actually I have quite a few topics to talk about. So here's the outline for this week's video. The first thing is I want to talk about the deadline that's approaching if you have a wide area authorization with the FAA. I'll talk about some information that I get from a meeting last week and try to share this with you. This came from an FAA person. The next thing is I want to talk about a bunch of people that get arrested this week for drone-related stupidness, I should say. The next one is the Drone Safety Awareness Week that the FAA is working on. I'll give you some date. I'll give you some more information. Just came out into my email a couple days ago. Another thing I want to talk about is DJI that's adding some mapping solutions and making some changes to some of their drones related to mapping. And then, as usual, try to have a drones for good story. So we'll talk about something that happened that was good related to drones this week. So let's get going. Let's get started. Before we get into the headlines, I actually want to make a correction to last week's video. Now in last week's video, actually 2 weeks ago I think it was, I talked about the Anafi drone from Parrot, the French company, and kind of made it sound like the drone was actually kind of an old drone that was a couple years old. And that was kind of my mistake. I actually didn't do enough research. And somebody made a comment on the post, and thank you for doing that, correcting what I said. The drone is actually about less than a year old at this stage, and they've had several versions of it. And my intent was definitely not to diminish the drone capabilities by any means. I actually think it's a great thing to have competition in the drone market. It means better drones for all of us as customers. So the drone is definitely not that old. It actually has great capabilities, and you should definitely look into it and see if it's a drone that's for you. I think it's a great competitor to the smaller drones from DJI. And so I just wanted to mention this. Definitely never my intent to diminish anyone in this podcast, in this video. I'm trying to create a positive atmosphere in the industry. So that's always the bottom line for what I do. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the first headline, which is Airspace Renewal. Now, this is not really a headline. This is not something that the FAA published, but I was on a phone call with a bunch of great guys actually from the Texas Drone Workshop. I'm a sponsor with Pilot Institute, and they invited me on one of their calls. There was a lot of great information being shared. There was a gentleman there from the FAA that approves waivers, and he mentioned a couple things. And the first one is that, as some of you know, if you have a wide area authorization, then it's going to expire at the end of this month. September 30th is how far the FAA had approved a whole bunch of these waivers and or authorization, I should say. And then now they're up for renewal. So if you have an authorization, you should have received an email from the FAA asking you to renew. And in this case, there's a couple points that the gentleman made, and I want to share those with you because I think they're important. First off, because of the sheer volume of all these approvals that are going to expire at the same time, they said that you should expect between 2 to 6 weeks for approval due to the volume. Now, another thing he mentioned is if you have a night waiver. Now, if you have a night waiver, if you don't have a night waiver, don't say that you have one, because guess what? The FAA actually checks on that information. And if you don't have one, you're just wasting their time and you're wasting everybody else's time so that the FAA doesn't have time to get to their application. So if you have a night waiver, then please go ahead and approve and attach it as a document to your application if you're going to renew. Another thing too is this, he mentioned that if you have a KMZ file, this is a file that you can generate to provide where you're going to be flying, providing GPS coordinates, then please also attach that to the file. These guys can download the file, put it in their software, and it's a lot quicker for them to figure out where you're going to be flying rather than giving them coordinates, which takes a while to go and determine. So this will help speed out the process quite a bit. And then the last thing that he mentioned is that your authorization is good until September 30th. So when you ask for renewal from October 1st going further. Now, he also mentioned that the next deadline is going to be March 31st of 2021. This is when the next September 30 is going to be in 2021. That's the next time that you'll have to renew your deadline. So with that being said, this is all the guidelines that he gave to people just to help everything go through smoother through the process. So if you have a wide area authorization, I want to hear your feedback. I want to see if you've submitted your approvals yet, and then how this process went. The FAA is working, as you know, I've mentioned this before, on a new process, and I'm sure it's going to be a while before we see anything new, but they're working on a new process to get approval to fly in controlled airspace and hopefully make it simpler. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is people getting arrested for doing drone-related shenanigans, I'm going to say. The first one is a group of activists that I mentioned a couple weeks ago that had decided that they were going to try to stop traffic at London Heathrow, one of the largest airport in the world. And they were going to do this by flying drones around the area and triggering the system that would shut down the airport. Obviously, not a great idea. And they tried to do this. They actually were jammed by the police signals that were around the airport. And a few people that tried to do this actually get arrested. So I made a few comments actually in some of the videos telling them that they should try to find a different target and find a different method. Obviously, this is giving all of us a bad reputation. I invite you to be civil as much as you can when you see these videos from these people, and telling them that they're actually hurting you and hurting our industry. So they actually get the idea that using drones is a terrible idea to get their message across. They have a message. I respect that. They want to shut down the airport, which is their right, but they should not be using drones to do this. So anyway, I'm going to put a bunch of links at the bottom if you want to take a look at that information. I think their attempts were thwarted, which is good at this stage. Now, another bunch of people that get arrested is this couple. I'm sure you've seen this in the news because this was all over the place. But a bunch of two Australian bloggers that were flying their drone in Iran, and they didn't have approval, and they got arrested in the capital in Tehran. And right now they're still in jail. They're waiting for their trial. If you know anything about Iran and the jails in Iran, not a really good place to be. So please be careful when you fly in a foreign country. Get yourself familiar with the rules. And if you're not sure, guess what? Don't fly, okay? It's not worth trying to get images and get arrested and spend probably the next couple of years in prison, because I have a feeling this is what's going to happen to them. So again, be careful when you fly out there. And then the last arrest, there were 3 of them this week in the news, is 2 people in Michigan that flew over a stadium during a ball game. This was a ball game in the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And they flew over the first ball game of the season, and they were caught and they were fined. Actually, they were charged with 2 things: misdemeanor for violating a city ordinance, and then also with an FAA violation. I'm expecting flying over people without a waiver. Again, please fly responsibly. Don't give the rest of us a bad reputation. I know a lot of you on this channel do this just because you watch this channel for a reason, to get educated and to not do stupid stuff. So this is it. That's all the people that get arrested. I think that's quite a bit this week, unfortunately. Hopefully I don't have to talk about this again next week and we all fly safely. Speaking of safety awareness, the FAA has labeled the week of November 4th to November 10th, 2019 as Drone Safety Week. And during that week, they're actually going to highlight every single day a different part of the drone industry. I don't remember the details. I have the document. I'm going to read through it because I want to be involved in this. But part of it is going to be drone photography, drone videography for realtors, for example. They have a day for hobbyists. They have a day for public safety. They have a day for just people in the commercial business in general. So they're going to be emphasizing different things on different days, which I think is great. I absolutely love what the FAA is doing. We're trying to make people aware and get better pilots and better prepared pilots, more knowledgeable pilots, which is our mission as well at Pilot Institute, is to educate people. So I'm excited about this. I'll give you more information as more information comes around. There's a bunch of information I'm going to put down in the link. Not everything is out just yet. I think they sent a lot of information to people like us, to providers that can reach out to you people. So again, I'll let you know more when I know more. Another thing about DJI, I feel like every week I talk about DJI. They came up with a bunch of mapping solutions, additional mapping solutions. They're really trying to grasp that market. They have a bunch of RTK drones. Now they just announced, that was in Germany, I think it was. They just announced the Matrice 210 RTK version 2.0. and that's going to have a Zenmuse X7 camera on it, which is kind of a really neat camera. They're really hoping to target the market with very high precision mapping tools. And they've also updated the Phantom 4 RTK. Now, it's not out yet. There's still not a whole lot of information about it, but essentially what they're trying to do is they've added the option to do several areas with different flights, and this is all automated, so you can actually fly a very large area using different missions. They're adding a cloud service that's going to help you upload the image immediately straight from the app. They've also added a device, a GNSS device, a mobile station that you're going to be able to use as an RTF rover. So you're going to be able to use this thing and use it for your ground station point, which is pretty cool. They've also updated DJI Terra, which is the software for capturing mapping data. They've added the ability to do ground control point for non-RTK drones. And for some of you, this may sound like just gibberish, but they've added the ability to do 3D point cloud in real time. So a lot of really cool stuff. They've even added a function where you can actually draw a straight line over a road, over a railroad, and it's basically going to create the mission just by following that straight line, which is really neat. So I'll put more information again in the details. There's still some stuff coming out on the the Phantom 4 RTK, sorry, and I'll let you know when I hear more about exactly what it's everything that it's going to do. All right, one more item this week, which is drones for good. You may have seen this in the news, and if you haven't, then you've heard it here first. This guy who was flying his drone on the beach in Australia and saw this surfer in the water and realized that there was a shark around him that was about to get towards him. So he actually had, I think it was a Mavic Enterprise, because he said he had a speaker on the drone, and he basically just told the guy, hey, there's a shark coming out for you. So the surfer came back to the coast and was able to get out of it safely. This happened actually, I think it was last year, and I think it was in Florida, don't quote me on this, where a guy saw a bunch of sharks around kids and told them the same thing to come out. So this is Drone for Good. This is our little weekly segment. I'm excited when I see drones doing good things. I mean, drones are doing good things all the time, but I'm happy when I see them in the actual media, in the news, in the non-drone news, where people talk about this. So. All right, this is all I have. As always, take a look at the courses. You want to get 107 certified. We do this. We've got the most comprehensive course out there, 12 hours of content. We've got plenty of practice questions, 250 practice questions. You can get this stuff done as fast as you can, as slow as you can. We've got over, I think, 5,000 people now enrolled in the course, so this is just amazing. We also have the maneuvers course going on still, going pretty strong, and then all the other courses we have available. So go take a look at what we offer for courses. And as always, fly safe. Don't get arrested. I don't want to talk about you in the next drone news. And then I'll see you guys next week. You have a great weekend.